ان شاء الله النهارده هنكمل في السايبر سيكيورتي. هنبتدي نتكلم على بعض الحاجات المهمه الحقيقه اللي لها علاقه بالديتا اللي موجوده عندنا على الدرايفز. واحده من الحاجات الاساسيه اللي لازم تبقى عندك فكره كويسه عنها هي حاجه اسمها داتا انكريبشن. الداتا انكريبشن هي عموما كديفينيشن هي البروسيس of converting the information into a form that unauthorized party cannot access or read. اوكي، بمعنى ايه؟ لو فرضا انا جيت عندي فرضا array of 100 numbers. اوكي، جيت للاري ده خدت له الفوريه ترانسفورم، هيطلع لي basically فوريه coefficients او فوريه يعني سبيكترم اللي هي السبيكترال بوينتس بتاعت الفوريه ترانسفورم. اوكي، لو انا فرضا بعت ده من غير ما اقول ان ده الفوريه ترانسفورم، اوكي، يبقى معنى كده اي حد هيأكسس المعلومات اللي هنا مش هيعرف دي ايه اصلا، مش هيبقى فاهم ايه ده اصلا. اوكي، نتيجه ان انا عملت ابلكيشن لبروسيس معينه حولت بيها الارقام دي لمجموعه ارقام ثانيه. اوكي، فبيسكلي الفكره الاساسيه ان احنا بنعمل اوبريشن معينه ومش اي حد يبقى عارف الاوبريشن دي. اوكي، في اوبريشنز ممكن تبقى جنرال ترانسفورميشنز، في اوبريشنز بتبقى meant ان هي تبقى انكريبشن، يعني بمعنى ان انت بتحول المعلومه بتاعتك ل يعني كود، والكود ده ديبندنت على كي معين. يعني فوريه ترانسفورم ما فيهوش كي. اوكي، لو انت عارف ان الداتا بتاعتك فوريه ترانسفورم يبقى معنى كده بتعمل لها انفرس فوريه ترانسفورميشن وخلاص وذاتس ات، مش محتاج كي. بس لو انت ما يعني بتستعمل بقى واحده من الانكريبشنز اللي محتاجه كي، يبقى معنى كده ما تقدرش انك انت تريكفر الداتا من غير ما يكون عندك الكي. في عندنا خصائص معينه للانكريبشن، مع يعني اول حاجه خالص ان انا يعني بيسكلي اوبريشن ببتدي من الاوريجينال داتا بحولها لسكرامبل داتا باستعمال انكريبشن كي. الحاجه الاساسيه، الخاصيه الاساسيه اللي لازم تكون موجوده ان السكرامبل داتا دي فيها كل المعلومات اللي موجوده في الاوريجينال داتا، ما هياش مثلا ابروكسيميشن من الاوريجينال داتا. بمعنى ان انا اقدر لو انا عندي ديكريبشن كي اقدر ان انا ارجع الداتا زي ما كانت اكزاكتلي من غير ما يكون فيها اي نقص خالص على الاطلاق. اوكي، فدي حاجه اساسيه. لو انا لاي سبب من الاسباب ما اقدرش ارجع، دي مشكله كبيره الحقيقه. اوكي، لازم التكنيك بتاع الانكريبشن لازم يسمح ان انا اقدر ان انا ارجع بالاوريجينال داتا تاني، يعني اوريجينال داتا ببعتها بشكل سكرامبلد او شكل انكريبتد، وبعد كده لما توصل للاوثورايزد بيرسون، الشخص اللي هو المفروض الداتا دي توصل له، يقدر يريكفر الاوريجينال داتا باستعمال الديكريبشن كي اللي انا كنت عامل شيرنج ليه مع الشخص دوت. فبمعنى احنا عندنا only trusted authorized person with secret key can decrypt the data. decrypt اللي هي عكس encrypt. اوكي، encrypt ان احنا بنحول الداتا لسكرامبلد فورم، decrypt معناها بنرجع من السكرامبل فورم نرجع ثاني نرجع الاوريجينال داتا. فمعنى كده الشخص ده لو معاه الديكريبشن كي يقدر ياكسس الاوريجينال فورم. حاجه مهمه جدا لازم تبقى فاهمها كويس قوي، encryption does not prevent intercepting the data. بمعنى انت دلوقتي لو انت بتبعت الداتا ممكن حد يكون بيسمع وانت بتبعت، مفيش مشكله، بس النقطه الانكريبشن بيمنع الشخص اللي بيسمع دوت او بينترسبت الداتا، يعني بيبقى في النص بينك وبين الريسيفر، بيمنعه ان هو يقدر يستفيد من المعلومه دي. اوكي، ما يقدرش ياكسس الكونتنت. دي حاجه مهمه جدا. طبعا المشكله الاساسيه طبعا ان احنا لازم كلنا لازم نبقى بلاننج ليها ونبقى يعني متحسبين انها ممكن تحصل في اي وقت، ان ممكن يبقى في عندنا مالوير ممكن في اي وقت ينفكت الكمبيوتر او الموبايل ديفايس او وات ايفر. وطبعا مشكله لما بيحصل حاجه زي كده ممكن يستيل الداتا اللي موجوده عندك على الدرايف. النقطه لو هو في عندك مالوير كويس يقدر ياكسس الهارد درايف، يقدر ياكسس الفيزيكال ديفايس، بس النقطه بقى ان انت تقدر انك انت يعني تعوق المالوير ده ان هو يستيل المعلومات او يغير المعلومات او وات ايفر، ان هو بيسكلي تعملها انكريبشن، تعمل الداتا اللي عندك كلها انكريبشن. ممكن تلاقي في برامج تقدر تركبها عندك، ممكن تبقى يعني طبعا بتبقى يعني برامج مش اي برنامج تستعمله عشان حاجه زي كده، بيبقى برنامج طبعا لازم يكون موثوق ينكريبت الفايلز اللي عندك كلها. يعني ممكن اكشولي انكريبت انتاير درايف. بعض الشركات بتاعت الهارد ديسكس بتدي لك اكشولي كيوتيليتي كده، بيبقى فيه شويه يوتيليتيز كده بتديها لك، ممكن منها انك انت اكشولي تعمل انكريبشن للهارد درايف كله. الكلام ده مشهور جدا كمان في اللي هي البورتابل هارد درايفز، اللي هي الاكسترنال هارد ديسكس. لان انت بيسكلي الاكسترنال هارد ديسك ده ضاع منك خلاص، انت بيسكلي الشخص مع الهارد ديسك يقدر ياكسس اللي عليه كله. فلو انت مش عامل له انكريبشن بيبقى مشكله الحقيقه. ف يعني بالنسبه للاكسترنال هارد درايفز بالذات، عاده يعني الشركات بتاعت الاكسترنال هارد درايفز بتدي لك بعض اليوتيليتيز، او ممكن انك انت اكشولي تشتريها بمبلغ ما هواش كبير يعني، بحيث ان انت تخلي الدرايف ده يبقى انكريبتد وانت بس اللي تبقى عارف الكي. اوكي. في برضو حاجه اسمها انكريبتنج فايل سيستم او انكريبتد فايل سيستم اي اف اس، ده موجود في الويندوز مثلا. اوكي. الحقيقه ده موجود في الويندوز بس مش في الهوم فيرجن، غالبا هتلاقيه في البروفيشنال فيرجن. انا حاولت الحقيقه ان انا اشغله عندي، لقيت انه محتاج البروفيشنال ويندوز. اوكي. ده الحقيقه بيخلي الاكونت كله بتاعك، كل الداتا اللي انت عندك على الاكونت مربوطه بالويندوز اكونت. بمعنى لو انت يعني اي حد عنده اكسس على الفيزيكال ديفايس ما يقدرش ياكسس الاكونت بتاعك. فايتس ا فيري نايس فيتشر الحقيقه. اوكي. فبيسكلي يعني في الحاله دي بقى only the user with the account اللي هو عنده الويندوز اكونت ده، لما يلوج ان الويندوز اكونت يقدر ياكسس الاكونت، otherwise ما ينفعش. اوكي. فدي طبعا حاجه مهمه جدا. داتا انكريبشن واحده من الحاجات المهمه جدا، فيها تفاصيل طبعا ما نقدرش نخش في التفاصيل بتاعتها، بس طبعا ممكن تفكر كده ان انت لو انت هنا في السكرامبل داتا وفرضا حصل كوربشن للفايل، تقدر تعمل ايه؟ طبعا مشكله كبيره لو حصل كوربشن للفايل ده لاي سبب من الاسباب. اوكي. هيبقى عندك مشكله انك انت تريكفر. بيبقى في بعض التكنيكس بقى بتديتكت الكوربشن ده وتحاول تعمل له كوركشن، حاجه اسمها اللي هو الايرور ديتكشن كوركشن تكنيكس، بس دي معقده شويه. فعامه في شويه تفاصيل عموما لازم نبقى برضو بنفكر فيها، لان طبعا يعني مش كل حاجه بتبقى كلها مزايا. كل حاجه لما بتاخد ميزه بيبقى قصادها تريد اوف، ان يبقى في عندك عيب بيبقى موجود. اوكي. بس الداتا انكريبشن عموما از فيري امبورتنت. لو انت بتشتغل في مكان فيه داتا مهمه، زي مثلا بتتكلم على المستشفيات الاي اتش ار مثلا، السيرفر بتاع الاي اتش ار ما تسمحش للسيرفر بتاع الاي اتش ار ان هو يكون محطوط فيه الداتا بشكل بلين كده، لازم يبقى انكريبتد. اوكي. لو انت بتشتغل برضو في مشروع مثلا وعندك معلومات مهمه عن المشروع اللي انت بتشتغل فيه، طبعا مش بتكلم عن مشروع في حاجه في الكليه بشتغل، بتكلم عن مشروع حاجه في الاندستري. وطبعا لما بيكون في اندستريال بروجكت بيبقى طبعا في منافسين، وطبعا بيهمهم ان هم يحصلوا على المعلومات دي او وات ايفر. فبرضه نفس الكلام، ما تعملش، ما تاخدش ريسك ان انت تخلي المعلومات بتاعتك موجوده عاديه كده بلين، لازم تخليها انكريبتد. دي حاجه اساسيه مهمه جدا لازم انك انت تاخدها في اعتبارك. برضو من الحاجات اللي لازم ناخدها في اعتبارنا موضوع الداتا. I'm sorry, I was speaking in Arabic. Is Rino here? Is Rino here? Rino is not here. That's why nobody actually nobody warned me. So basically, I'll go back and explain the first slide again in English. Okay, I'm really sorry. Okay. So basically, the data encryption, the idea of data encryption is basically to convert the information into a scrambled form. And basically, this scrambled form can only be opened or accessed by somebody with a very specific decryption key. So basically, in this way, only trusted people or authorized people can access the data. So even if somebody intercepts the data, if somebody has access to the data, whether you're sending that data over the internet and somebody actually basically intercepted the information while you're transmitting the information, or basically if it's on a physical drive and this physical drive got somehow hacked or something like that, the person who actually has access to the data cannot, get the actual information from it, cannot get the original information. He would get a file or get a set of files that are scrambled that basically don't have any way of basically disclosing the original information that was basically put in them, which is very important. We have to always be ready, for a malware that can infect our computers or mobile devices and access our data. And this is very important. It makes it very important for us actually to use utilities to encrypt our data, whether it's on the computer or mobile or whatever. Okay. This way, if somebody has access even to the physical drive, he cannot access whatever you have in there. One example of that is what's available on Windows, which is called encrypting file system, which is basically it encrypts everything on your account and links the encryption to your account itself. So basically, whenever you log in, it decrypts your account. If you didn't log in, and basically if somebody else logged in on the same machine and tries to access your account, he will not be able to do that, even if he has the physical drive. If you don't do that, if somebody has the hard drive or if he has an account on the same computer, he can still access your account. Okay, can access the data on your account, which is actually in some cases can be very dangerous, basically. The manufacturers of external hard drives also provide utilities that allow you to do that. So in general, it's very important to try to use data encryption for your important data that you have on your computer or external hard drives. Especially, of course, if you're using that drive for work data, for example. A very important issue also is about data backup. Basically, we all do that, okay? Basically, myself, I have multiple hard drives, and basically I keep the same data on multiple drives, okay? And you have to think about the many ways where the data may be lost, okay? For example, you might erase the data by mistake. There might be a hard drive failure. This happens, okay? Basically, you might think that I'm buying a brand name for my hard drive, so it shouldn't really fail at all. But actually, failure of hard drives is very common, especially the mechanical ones. The SSD ones, the newer ones that are electronic, are more reliable, but basically you have to basically think that if the failure rate is 0.1%, it can still happen, okay? 0.1% means that 1 in every 1,000 would fail, okay? 1 in every 1,000. So basically, if you have 1,000 people, at least in your KU, for example, King Abdulaziz University, imagine how many drives are there, okay? You have many thousands. So basically, for these many thousands, there are probably many tens or many even hundreds of hard drives that will fail, okay? So basically, it's very dangerous to imagine or think that your drive is not gonna fail. It's definitely basically susceptible to failure, okay? Another thing that might happen also is that the whole computer might get stolen, okay? Which is really a big problem. So this actually happened to people I know. So somebody actually had all his information, everything on a laptop, and he left it in his car, and basically his car was broken into, and basically somebody got his laptop. So basically he was literally lost. He had all his information, all his work, files, and everything was there. So it's extremely important to have a backup of your data somewhere else, okay? So basically, having a backup may prevent loss of irreplaceable data. Basically, irreplaceable meaning that it's very difficult to basically get another copy of that data. For example, if you have copies of original designs from the first version of a product that you manufacture in your company, for example, okay? And basically, all the other engineers basically have, they have developed more versions of this product. So basically, they are keeping only the last version, okay? So if you lose the data of the first version of your product, you're not going to be able to get it back, okay? So basically, it's irreplaceable, basically. Maybe I can give you another example that might be personal, okay? Imagine that you have the photos of your family, for example. You have some photos for your family, and basically you have all these photos on your computer, okay? Imagine that basically you had basically your grandfather, for example, and your grandfather is now late, for example. So basically, you cannot get another picture of him. Basically, if you lose his photos, basically you cannot get another one. So basically, this if you lose it, then it's irreplaceable. So always think about the irreplaceable data that you have and try to make copies of it. Try to make backup copies of it. In order to do a proper backup, data must be copied to a second location. And it must be done so regularly and automatically, okay? If you think that you're going to, every now and then, you're going to sit down and see the data that you have and basically update the backup, it's not gonna work like that, okay? Because basically, first of all, you're not gonna have time regularly, okay? And basically, between the time you last did your backup and the time that failure happens, basically, you might have accumulated some important data, and basically, you cannot recover that. And automatically is very important also because maybe if you're doing that manually, sometimes you forget about some things. You basically think that you updated or backed up a certain folder or a certain type of data, but actually you forgot to do that. So it's much better actually if you basically put certain folders where the important data reside and basically make the process of backup automated and basically make it scheduled like monthly. Actually, it's better to be weekly so that you have the last version of everything. And if you lose the data, you lose the data of 1 week rather than of 1 year. Okay, so this is very important. The issue with the second location is basically like a backup. Basically, it's an additional benefit of having safety in the event of fire, theft, or other catastrophes. Okay, for example, if you leave your hard drive, your backup hard drive, you basically back up your data to an external hard disk. And basically, you put this external hard disk in the same bag where you have your laptop. Okay. If your bag gets stolen, then you basically you're very much lost. It's basically the backup is completely meaningless in this case. So if you have a backup drive, okay, a backup that you put on an external hard disk, put it in somewhere else. Don't put it with the same location or at the same location where the actual data is or the original data is. So this is very important. Okay. You have two options actually when you do backup. The first option is to do that locally. Basically, you have an external hard drive, and basically, I actually like the idea of network attached storage. So basically, if you're working in a company or something like that, it's very difficult to ask every engineer to have an external hard disk to back up his information on that hard disk. It's actually much better if you have a network attached storage where you have a hard drive that is attached to the router, for example. Okay, and everybody can access it from their network location. Okay, so basically it's like a network storage where you can actually back up whatever you want to the network, to the basically that network storage. So basically this is basically the best option I think of if you think about multiple users. Okay, if you're thinking about a single user, then an external hard drive would be a good idea. You can also back up your data into CDs or DVDs, or even sometimes tapes. Tapes are actually, you might not imagine that tapes are a useful means of doing that. Actually, there are types of tape that actually hospitals use, basically. I actually used one myself when I was in the US. Basically, it's a very small tape. It looks like the old tapes that you used to play a long time ago. But actually it's much smaller, but actually it's the capacity of such tapes is huge. Okay, so basically I stored a lot of information on tapes. Okay, CDs and DVDs are really good. Basically the storage size is now it became significant now. But the problem with CDs and DVDs is that they have a lifetime. They actually get corrupted after a while. Okay, so basically I had very important information backed up to CDs and DVDs from like 20 years ago. When I try to access them now, they don't work. So basically they are not as reliable now. Okay, So it's better to have external hard drives, and it's even better to have an SSD type external hard drive, not the mechanical one, because mechanical failure is more likely than electronic failure. They all will fail. If you imagine that SSD drive don't fail, you're basically you're not thinking about it the right way. Okay, every electronic or mechanical device can fail, and basically, if you know the Murphy's law, everything can fail, will fail. Okay, if anything can fail, okay, if it has a chance of failing, then it will eventually fail sometime. Okay, but it's very important to prepare or basically be ready for something like that when it happens. Basically, this is the easiest option because basically it's up to you. So basically, it's up to you to decide which device you're going to use. Basically how you're going to do the backup. So basically, the problem here is that you're totally responsible for the cost and maintenance of storage device equipment. So imagine that you're working in a company, and this company, or in a hospital, for example, okay? And this hospital has maybe, I'm not gonna say 100 people, just 10 people, okay? If you're going to ask 10 people to regularly or basically be responsible for backing up the data from 10 people, it's a huge task. It's very difficult, by the way, okay? I saw that myself when I was working in a company maybe 10 years ago or something like that. Basically, it has to be done in a way that basically somebody is going to be responsible for it, and it's going to take a significant amount of time to do that. So basically, it's not going to be like one of you guys should be responsible for the backup. It's not going to work like that, okay? Somebody has to be responsible for it, and basically, he has time to do it, okay? So, and basically, if you are responsible, then if somebody if one of these storages fails, then it's going to be your responsibility that it failed, okay? You have to actually select the technology, you have to select the way the backup is going to occur, you have to actually inspect the drive for errors, make sure that it's working properly, and also you have to pay the cost of everything that you're going to have. This is definitely something you think about. When you are by yourself, then it's manageable. But if you have multiple people, okay, it's not going to be as easy as you think. You have to really think about it, you know, in some detail in order to realize the difficulties involved with this. The other one, which is actually one of the things that I use also, I actually have local and cloud storage. Cloud storage is like Google Drive, for example, okay, or Dropbox or whatever, okay? The advantage of something like this is that you're not responsible for that, for the maintenance, but you're definitely responsible for the cost. But the cost actually, it depends on the storage space needed. So basically you can start with a modest or a small space, and then you expand as you want, okay? So basically as the data increases, you increase your storage. The advantage of web cloud storage is that they have really robust techniques to store your data. So it's very unlikely for the cloud storage to fail, okay? So basically they have redundancy. So basically if a hard drive they have fails, they can actually collect the data from other drives, which is one of the things that we're going to talk about in the later parts of this course, which is called RAID drive, redundant array of independent drives. So basically, they can recover if any one of them fails, okay? We said that if any drive can fail, it will fail, okay? They actually plan everything as if one of the drives will fail. And by the way, it's very unlikely that two drives fail at the same time. So they plan for only one, okay? So basically, if you imagine that you have 10 drives, okay? And you're sharing, somehow you're sharing the data among the 10 drives, okay? And you have redundancy so that if one of them is missing, you can still have all the data on the remaining 9, okay? Basically, the RAID storage is designed to do exactly that, basically. Basically, we're going to talk about it. We're going to see the you know, different kinds of RAID devices later on in the course, but for now, we know that the cloud storage is actually very robust as far as the reliability of the storage itself. The only issue that you have to worry about basically is the cost, this first of all, and definitely the data transfers. Okay, data transfers means that if you're going to back up a few gigabytes, okay, a few gigabytes, it's okay. You can probably do it in a few hours, for example. If you have a modest, not actually a few hours, there's actually a few minutes. Actually, if you have a good connection, internet connection. But if you're going to back up multiple terabytes, and you have to do that every week, then data transfer rates will be very critical. Okay, you're going to have a problem with the data transfer. You have to actually do it in a time when the internet is not used at your company, and basically, at that time, you're gonna have, a lot of time. You're gonna need a lot of time to actually do that. And basically, when you're going to access your data, you're going to need time also to retrieve your data. So basically, it's a problem. So basically, the issues here with the cloud storage are not related to the maintenance or the possible failure of the device or the responsibility to make sure that the storage, the backup storage is working. Basically here, it's about the costs and the data transfer rates. Okay, so basically, you need to be more selective about which data you're going to back up, and you also have to be selective about the cloud storage service that you're going to subscribe to. Okay. At one point, actually, I thought about forgetting all about the physical storages, the external hard drives that I have, and just going for a cloud storage, just have everything stored on the cloud. I had a very big problem actually with both Google Drive and Dropbox. I was actually backing up like I was getting like multiple terabyte plans, and I was backing up almost the whole thing. The thing that actually bothered me, and I actually discontinued these plans, was that in order for the backup to happen, it has to check all the files and basically sees which one is updated so that it can update only the ones that got updated. So this took a lot of time, and actually, to my surprise, actually, it actually didn't back up some files that I changed. So basically, there was a bug somewhere there, and the way they actually look for updated files didn't work well for very large storages. So basically, I would update files, and I expect them to be in updated version on Google Drive or on Dropbox, and I would find the old version there. So basically, this was a problem. So basically, you have to really examine and basically check whatever storage service that you're going to subscribe to, and basically don't take just brand name for granted. Just don't say that Google Drive is a brand name or Dropbox is perfect or something like that. It's not going to be like that. You might find some problems for your data depending on how it looks like. Okay. Please, if you have any questions, please stop me at any time and ask. One very important aspect of data is deletion. Okay, this is one of the projects that one of you will be doing actually, which is permanent deletion of data. When you delete your data, if I have a file, for example, my file .doc, for example, this is like a Word file. If you delete this file, for example, if you have all your information in this file, and basically you're going to sell your computer, basically your laptop became old, and basically you decided that you're going to sell that laptop and get a newer one, okay? And basically you came to such files like this where it has your information and just deleted these files, just put them in the trash can and that's it, okay? And you think that this file is gone already. You empty the trash can, and that's it. It's not there. You don't see it anywhere in your system. Okay, is that okay? No, it's not okay. Okay, as it turns out, the way the Windows operating system or many operating systems do the deletion is just they come to the file itself, they delete the first letters. So you come here, they delete the first letter, and that's it. Okay, if you delete the first letter, if you basically put, instead of the first letter, you put exclamation part, basically exclamation mark like this, basically this file will not appear to you when you try to list the files that you have on your system. If somebody has the right tool, he can recover your file, which is extremely dangerous. Actually, it happens all the time. Okay, imagine that, for example, people had their family photos on their laptops, and basically deleted everything and basically sold it to somebody, and this somebody wasn't really a nice person. He actually recovered all the family photos, and basically he might be able to blackmail that person, for example, okay, which is really dangerous. I actually learned about that, if you can imagine, in the year 1988. It's probably before you were born, probably. But actually, I was, at that time, I was taking a summer training while I was an undergrad. And basically, during that year, I was working for an American research center. And basically, I decided to create a database for all the equipment that that center had. Okay, and I kept working on that database, updating and adding things to that database for almost a month. Okay, the training itself was about 3 months. Okay, so a whole month actually I was doing that. The day before the last day, just one day before the last day of the summer training, basically that file, the database file that I added everything to, got deleted. Okay, by mistake. Okay, so basically all my work was gone, basically, and basically the people there were mad because basically they were happy with this, and actually I was leaving, so basically nobody else is going to be able to do the same work again. So it was a big problem. Okay, so they called the IT guy. So he came with a Norton, what's called the semantic tools, or Norton tools, or Norton, I think it's Norton tools. One of the Norton tools is actually undelete. Okay, the basically recovery tool for deleted files. I thought this was like a magic. Okay, basically it showed all the files that were deleted, and basically I saw my file with an exclamation mark like this, like exactly that. Just the first letter was just, you know, replaced by exclamation mark like this, and he was able to recover it very easily. So basically, it's very important to know that whenever you put a file to the trash and say that it's deleted permanently, the file is only inaccessible from the operating system, but it's there, it's on the physical device. Okay, this is extremely important. If you basically, one of the things, the classic example of this actually was, you know, the mafia people. The mafia people actually, some mafia gangs actually were caught because they actually didn't delete their files the proper way. Okay, so if you're working with the mafia, this is something to consider. Okay. So if you're working, of course, with healthcare, this is very important as well. Okay, because actually the privacy of your patient files is as important as you know, as it gets. Basically, it's very important. So basically, anyone with the right tools, forensic means that it's kind of the undelete is like a forensic tool. It's a tool for an expert. Okay, an expert can use. You can still recover the file because basically it still has the file itself still there on the hard drive. By the way, the only way it can be basically deleted is that if you overwrite it, if you get to the same place it was and overwrite it with other data. But you will never know that this happened actually, because basically when you delete a file and you write another file, you will never know where the computer will put it on the hard drive. It might put it somewhere else, and your file might still be there. Okay, so basically this is the conclusion here. To erase the data so that it is no longer recoverable, data must be overwritten with ones and zeros multiple times. So basically all the empty spaces or the things or the places on your hard drive that are not used by existing files must be overwritten by ones and zeros multiple times in order for you to be able to say that this was perfectly deleted. There are tools to do that, like sdelete for Microsoft and shred for Linux and secure empty trash for Mac OS that actually do that for you. So basically, deleting or permanent deletion, proper permanent deletion of data is not done by just putting the data into the trash and deleting the data from the trash. It doesn't happen this way. There are special tools that allow you to do that, okay? So basically, the only way, which is kind of catastrophic a little bit, the only way to be certain that data or files are not recoverable is to physically destroy the hard drive or the storage device. Okay, so basically, if you want to make sure, if you're basically, even if you do these, there might be some higher expertise actually that would still recover the data, because actually the way the data are written into the hard drive is not like every bit in a single place. It's actually written in multiple places. So basically, even after these, if you basically somebody from the CIA, for example, wants to get the data on your drive, he can still get it. Okay. The only way to make sure that the drive is basically the data on that drive is basically gone is to physically destroy that hard drive. You just put it in fire or basically put it under a train or whatever. Okay, basically it's just physically destroy the hard drive. Okay, this is definitely not realistic. So basically we're talking about for regular people like us who are not working on espionage or anything like that, where the CIA is not involved. You can basically use these tools, in your hospital, your company, without any problem. Okay. So basically, this is the regular, or this is the right way to do it. And basically, for the extra security people, like spies, like whatever, okay, they have to actually destroy the hard drive. If you're going to sell your computer, please make sure to do that. Okay. Even formatting is not going to work. If you format your hard drive, it's not going to work. It's not going to do the trick here. The formatting is related to the basically the part of the hard drive that partition, the partition table of the hard drive. Okay, the actual data on the hard drive, basically the formatting doesn't care about. It doesn't overwrite it. Basically, it basically reformats everything, but whatever is there is there. It allows somebody to write anywhere in the hard drive. So basically, it doesn't care if something is there. So basically, even formatting is not enough. You have to use one of the secure deletion tools to be able to do that. So this is really important. Okay. There are some guidelines actually, and this is actually the project, as I was saying, the project of one of you. Okay. By the way, I got one submission for a project. I'm not gonna say from whom, but actually, please send me the file itself. Send me the movie file itself. Don't put it on YouTube yourself, because the plan is to use it on the program YouTube page, basically. Because basically we're going to have a visit for accreditation next term, and basically.
Can you repeat, please, Doctor?
Please send me the file, the actual movie file. Okay, don't upload it to YouTube yourself, because I'm going to upload it to the official program YouTube channel. Okay, so basically,
okay,
just
should we send it via WhatsApp or
the
email?
link. Put it on Google Drive and send me the link. Okay. Okay, just put it on something like Google Drive or Dropbox or whatever, and send me the link to the file, and I will download it. Okay, and upload it to the YouTube channel. Okay. So basically, besides storing the data on your local drive, your data might be also stored in the cloud. This is an additional complexity here. If you're going to back up your data on the cloud, okay, be sure to delete everything from your drive and from your cloud storage, because basically, if your cloud storage account is still available or still accessible or can be obtained from whatever you have on your local drive, if somebody actually got your old hard drive or old computer and basically uses the tools to recover what was on it, then the storage device, the cloud storage account is going to be working on that computer, and they can access your account from your old computer, which is really dangerous. Okay, so basically, if you're going to delete your data, make sure that you're going to delete it everywhere. If it's in local drives or cloud or whatever, you have to actually make sure that it's deleted from everywhere. Okay, so this is sometimes can be very difficult, by the way. For example, if your data is placed in a website, then if it's public on a website, then there might be copies on the internet, because there are some robots on the internet that actually go through different websites, and they might have data from your account, and usually it's very difficult to delete something from the internet. Once you posted something to the internet, it's kind of difficult, kind of really very tricky to make sure that it's deleted everywhere. So you have to actually be careful when you post something to the internet. So basically, when you need to delete something, you get your data or get rid of a hard drive or a computer, make sure that you safeguarded the data to keep them from falling into the wrong hands. I know people actually, when I told my family, for example, family members about this, they say that we don't have anything of value. Why should we worry about that? Okay, it's actually more than something of value. It might be something about privacy, basically. If you have some private files that you don't want anybody to look into, like photos, for example, or financial information, you really want to do that. You want to really make sure that the data is perfectly deleted or permanently deleted before you actually sell your hard drive or sell your computer or whatever. Okay, so this is really important. It's definitely even so when you're talking about a computer that belongs to a hospital or belongs to a company. Basically, it's even more so there. Now we're going to talk about multi-factor authentication. Of course, we actually know about these from our bank accounts here. Usually, whenever you access your bank account from your phone, for example, the bank application might ask you to verify your identity by your fingerprint, for example. Okay, so basically it's called multi-factor because basically you have your login information, you have your username and password, but actually you use another factor like something you are or a physical object or basically something in general, okay, that you use to basically verify yourself. Okay, so basically you have basically now popular online services use two or multiple factor authentication to add an extra layer of security for account logins. Okay, beside the username and password or PIN number, sometimes you have two-factor authentication that requires a second token. In addition to these, you have either a physical object. So basically, sometimes it asks you for, if you have your phone, it will send you something to your phone. Okay, if you're using a computer, it might ask you for a fob. Basically, fob is like for example, a USB drive that has certain encryption, and basically, whenever you put it into your computer, it can read it and verify that you have this fob, the right fob for your account, and basically uses that to verify that it's you. So basically, physical object is something that you have. Okay, something you have. Okay. And basically, if you have this, then it's actually a second way of verifying that it's you. Another way of doing that is something that is you. Okay, that is a property of you, like a fingerprint, like a palm print, like a facial or voice recognition. This is actually, these are becoming more popular now, the facial in particular, facial recognition. So basically, these are very important. Okay, so basically you use a username and password, and in addition to that, you add one of these in order to have at least a two-factor authentication and basically make the job difficult for a hacker. Okay, again, this will make it difficult but not impossible. It's like the example of the car, when we actually just put a stick on your driving wheel and basically it prevents anybody to drive the car or make it difficult. Makes it difficult for somebody to drive your car if they got into your car. Okay, so basically we said that thieves by their nature basically don't want to put an effort. Basically, if they like putting an effort, you would have worked in something basically that would be honorable, not stealing things from people, basically. So basically, if we see something as difficult or more difficult than other, we would try the easier one first. So you attack somebody who doesn't have a two-factor authentication, and basically it's because it's easier for them. But even for a two-factor authentication, hackers can still gain access to your account. Basically, if you have a phishing attack, a malware, if they steal something of these, if you steal the phone, for example, they can still access your account. But it's actually much less likely than basically getting your account just username and password. Okay, you're adding a second layer of security to your account. Okay, one of the things that people use actually is social engineering, which is probably one of the things that are becoming a problem right now. If somebody asks you about or basically lures you to basically disclose the PIN number, your PIN number, for example. Okay, so basically you might meet somebody or basically becomes your friend or something like that, and you're basically talking, and basically he tells you that I use this combination for my PIN number, and basically it's kind of difficult to remember. What's yours, by the way? Okay, he might ask you something like this. And sometimes it's some people actually might feel kind of they basically as long as somebody who looks nice and basically he already gave me his PIN number, so it's not a problem if I give him my PIN number. But actually, it can be a problem like this. This is social engineering. Social engineering is like you perform an act. Basically, you basically convince the person that you are his friend and basically get some information, some valuable information through that friendship, for example, or through other things. Basically you might make him think that there is a problem somewhere, and basically you need to access that information for basically to save that or basically resolve that problem. So basically there are many ways actually doing social engineering in order to get the second factor authentication. Okay, so these can be very problematic. So basically, even with two or multiple factor authentication, your account is not foolproof. It's not like protected 100%. There's no such thing as 100%. Okay, so basically, this can still be, hacking can still occur, but actually, it's much more difficult. It's much less likely. You might have heard about open authorization protocol, which is actually used in many sites now. So, for example, I was actually creating an account on Spotify, okay, and basically it gave me an option to create an account, a new account there, or use an existing account from Facebook, for example. So I can use my Facebook account to basically directly log into Spotify without creating a new account. Is that a good thing for me? Yes, definitely, because I don't want to have many accounts. You may say I don't want to have an account in every company in the world, basically. It's easier if I have just one account, or basically use an existing account to log into a new service. So basically, sometimes you find something like this. Basically, whenever you go to a certain app or a certain website, you might find something that looks like this. It can allow you to log in to a new site, to a completely new service with either Facebook, Google account, Twitter account, or LinkedIn account. Okay, so basically this has become very important, and basically it's actually very secure as well. Okay, we need to understand how this works. So basically now, right now you're basically you want to access a certain service. Okay, basically this is you want to access this service here. Okay, and basically what the service will ask you is basically either you have an account directly here to access the data, or if you don't do that, basically if you don't have that, you basically have another service, Facebook, for example, here, and you have an account on Facebook. So basically log in with the Facebook credentials. And Facebook basically sends a token, like a message or like a secure transmission to the new application, tells them that it's okay. Basically, it gives you access to the data through the client application. Okay, so basically this actually what happens basically. So basically, for example, basically it's like a middleman. Open authorization is like a middleman that allows you to use credentials to access a third-party application without exposing the user's password. So this happens actually, and this particular application doesn't even see your credentials. It doesn't see your password here for Facebook. Okay, it sees only the token, and this token is not related to your password at all. It just gives the client application a confirmation that your account is verified. That's it. Okay, so this is very useful when you're trying to access something that you might not really think it's secure enough. Okay, if you created an account on a website that you might think is kind of not as secure, or basically this is the first time you deal with that service, for example, you're not sure if you're going to use a password on that website, it might actually take that password and try to use it for your other accounts, for example. Okay, so basically it's easier if you actually do it through the open authorization. So for example, you want to access a web application XYZ, you do not have a user account for accessing that web application, but XYZ has the option to allow you to log in using login credential from a social media website ABC. So what happens, the sequence of events is as follows. Application XYZ is registered with ABC. So basically, it must be this client application is registered here with Facebook, okay? And is an approved application. So basically, Facebook approves that application to be basically an okay, a trusted application. When you're trying to access XYZ, you'll be directed to the Facebook login. Okay, so basically use the login information for the ABC website, the social media website. Okay, when you do that and you successfully log in, okay, the XYZ requests access token from ABC on your behalf. So basically, you get a token from here to the application, the original application XYZ, okay, so that it confirmed that you were able to log into that Facebook account, okay? When this happens, it gives you access to XYZ. So basically, you log in as if you have an account there. And basically, XYZ doesn't know anything about your user credentials. It doesn't have any passwords, it doesn't have your credentials that you use to log into Facebook, okay? And this interaction is totally seamless for the user. So basically, it's as if you're logging into that XYZ app itself. Basically, it doesn't seem like you're talking to someone that will talk to XYZ. No, it's basically you're from here, for example, you're logging in within that app, and basically it's totally seamless, means that you don't feel that you're going to Facebook and then from Facebook you're going to here and there is a token sent. You don't really see that at all. So basically it's very transparent. Basically it's as if you're logging in with an account on XYZ. Okay, and using the secret tokens actually is very important because it prevents malicious apps from getting your data. Okay, so basically if you have a malicious app here, it might actually get your data and basically try to use it somehow, basically. Okay, so basically if you're doing that this way, the token will not contain any information about you. It's basically, even if this app is malicious for some reason, basically this token is not gonna expose your data or expose your account in any way. So this is actually one of the very important authorization techniques, and basically it's very common now and you can use it very safely. We talked before about firewalls, and basically firewalls, we thought it as a design or a technique to control or filter which communications are allowed in and which are allowed out of a device or a network. So basically you might have a firewall on a single computer, or basically you can have it on a network. So basically you can have a single computer firewall like what we all have, okay? You definitely have one, okay? And you can have a firewall on your router, for example, at the interface between your local area network and the internet, for example. Okay, and you can control whatever these firewalls do. Okay, we also said about this firewall, we actually talked about this last time. We can have a hardware firewall, or we can have a software firewall. Okay, for the software firewall, it's usually one on your computer. What's on your computer, for example? If you got an internet security software like Norton or like McAfee or whatever, okay, you will have a firewall there, okay? And this is a software firewall, okay? If you have your router, then it's a hardware firewall. It's programmable. You can actually change it from the administrative interface of the router, but actually it's basically, you're not gonna have you don't have to run it on a computer. Basically, it's on that hardware device. Okay, so basically, it's very important. It's actually important to have both. Okay, it's not just like if you have a network firewall, then you don't need a computer firewall. It's not like that. Okay, it's very important to have both. Okay, basically, there are several types of firewalls, and basically I'm just going to go over them very quickly, but actually some of them are going to be explained a little bit more when we talk about networking, because basically if you talk about these first three, for example, you talk about where the firewall will work. Okay, we're going to talk about layers of networking. Basically, the networks are basically layered. You have several layers of applications, basically, or basically kind of how the network works has different layers. And basically, you can put a firewall on the network layer, on the transport layer, or the application layer. Basically, application layer is probably the highest layer, which is basically going to have happen basically in the software firewall. Okay, if you go a little bit below, then you probably going to have a hardware firewall, so that it can actually work on the basically the lower level layers of the network. So basically, we're going to postpone talking about these in to basically talk about them in the networking topic, inshallah. I just want to point out that there are such things as what's called context-aware firewall, okay, which is basically filtering based on the user, the device, role, application type, and threat profile. Meaning that it can actually change its properties depending on who is using it. Okay, so basically it changes from one user to another. So for example, if you have a regular user and an administrator, basically it works differently for each one of them. If you have a server and you have basically a laptop, for example, it would work different, and so on and so forth. So basically, it's called context aware because basically it changes its properties or how it works depending on the context you're using the firewall for. Sometimes you have what's called proxy server. Proxy server, you're basically filtering web content requests like URLs, domain, and media, things of that sort. So basically, proxy server can be used, for example, actually it is used by many companies, for example, to prevent the employees from accessing YouTube, for example. Okay, so basically, when you're trying to access a website that is not allowed, or a social media website from your company's network, for example, it would block it. Basically, you're not accessing the internet directly. You're accessing the internet through a proxy server, and this proxy server works very much like a firewall in that respect. Sometimes you actually have the opposite, okay? There's something called proxy server, which basically you're talking about user to internet, accessing the internet, okay? Here, the reverse proxy actually is like the reverse, the other way around. So basically, it's the other way around here, okay? It's internet to user, but actually a user is not a regular user in this case. It's usually like the web server, okay? So the computer where the web server is, okay, basically it's trying, basically the internet is trying to access the website that you have, okay? So basically, it can actually sometimes, if you have some website or some domain that try to hack into the website, you can somehow block them. So basically, you can actually protect, hide, offload, distribute access to web servers. Sometimes actually, it's a matter of basically, if you have multiple web servers, you can basically decide based on the firewall that you have or the reverse proxy server where the traffic from the internet will go. So basically, you have a single address for your website, but if you're accessing a certain part of your website, it will take you to a server or to another, okay? But actually, you can control what happens here from the internet to your server. So that's why you call it reverse proxy server. One of the other things that you might find is something called network address translation firewall. Okay, so basically it is used to masquerade or hide private addresses of network hosts. Okay, we're going to talk about this, by the way, because this is used, for example, you have IP version 4 to IP version 6. We're going to talk about it also in the networking part. Okay, this is actually very commonly used to translate the old internet addresses to the newer ones. Okay, so basically it can be used also to basically try to hide your local network host, for example, because you don't want to have your local network accessible by outside, by the basically the internet outside, basically, for example. Okay, so basically you can basically hide your you basically try to prevent access to your local area computers from the outside. Okay, sometimes you have also what's called host-based firewall, which is basically filtering ports and system service calls on a single computer basis. So basically, this is very much the software firewall. You can actually, if you have a firewall, you can actually look at which services are enabled or which are disabled, and you can actually control it completely from your software user interface. Okay, and basically sometimes, for example, there were some computer programs that would require to have complete access to the internet, for example. So sometimes the firewall would prevent them from accessing the internet. So basically, if we are trying to access the license, for example, it would be prevented. And so basically, if it cannot access the license, it will not allow you to work on the software. Okay, so in this case, you have to actually manually change the settings of the firewall to allow that particular application to access the internet. So basically, it's under your control. Okay, it has certain default settings, but you can actually control or change these default settings depending on your needs, basically. One very important thing you might hear about is called port scanning. Port, if you think about a computer port, sometimes you think about the USB opening or something like that, or if you have HDMI output or something like that. Basically, you think about the connections that you basically want to connect a hard drive to or whatever. Basically, you think about hardware ports. But actually, ports, by definition, in this context, is our port basically is a process of basically the port scanning is actually, or let's just define the basically what ports is. Port is like a service, corresponds to a service on the computer. Okay, so basically you have several services that might exist on your computer. Okay, basically if you have a certain operating system, this operating system can be used to be just a personal computer. It can be used like a web server. It can be used like an FTP server. It can be used on basically on different levels. Basically, it can be used as different things. And basically, this depends on which ports are enabled and which services are running. Okay, so basically, in networking in general, each application running on a device is assigned an identifier called a port. Okay, and this port, or basically a port number, that is used for both ends of transmission. So basically, if you want to use a certain service, okay, then you're sending the information to the computer to that port. For example, if you have port 80, for example, this actually is related to, if you have a web server, then this will give you the address of the web service that is available on your computer, for example, okay? I'm not sure if it's 80 exactly, but actually I think it's 80, if I remember. But actually it's, you have a certain number for each service, okay? And whenever you're accessing that computer with that port, for example, if you have an address, then a number, for example, like this is a port number. So basically, if you're accessing that computer with that port number, if that service is running, it will respond to you, okay? If it's not running, then basically you're not gonna get any response. So basically, if somebody's trying to hack into a computer, he would very much love to basically know which services are running on your computer. Because basically, if you have a certain service and he can communicate with that service, he would look for vulnerabilities in that service and try to exploit them. So basically, as a reconnaissance tool, or basically like a preliminary investigation of your network or your computer or whatever, he's trying to know which ports are open, okay? Open ports, meaning that services are running and responsive to external requests. Okay, so basically port scanning works by trying to access a certain address or a certain whatever, certain location or a certain server to see which ports are open, so that you get a list of open services or open ports, and then try to think or try to get the information of such ports or such services and try to exploit them. The thing that is, basically making port scanning more dangerous, basically, is that sometimes when you know which services are running, you know the operating system and you know which version of the operating system as well. So basically, it's very dangerous to allow somebody to do port scanning. Actually, port scanning is usually a precursor for hacking. So basically, if your system detects somebody who is trying to do port scanning, then you know that an attack is coming very quickly, very soon. Okay, so this is really dangerous. Okay, this is very important. Okay, so basically, this is very important, this part here. Port scanning can be seen as a precursor or to network attacks, and therefore should not be done on a public server or on the internet or on a company network without permission. You remember what we talked about the type of hackers? Basically, if you get a permission, then you are a white hat hacker. Okay, you're doing that to explore if there is any open port that can be exploited. Okay, and basically you're helping the company to make its computers safer. So basically you have a permission. If you don't have a permission, then you either a gray hat or a black hat attacker or black hat hacker, which are both are illegal, by the way. These are illegal. You cannot do that. And actually, I remember this very vividly, actually, because one of my friends, actually, at least maybe 15 years ago, one of the universities in Egypt basically had its grading system, or basically where the grades of the students is placed. Basically, it's like what you have on, for example, Otis here. Okay, students were able to hack into it and basically know their grades or change their grades even. Okay, by hacking into one of the open ports on the university server. So basically, my friend actually was working as a white hat hacker, and basically went and actually helped them to close the ports that were not used and secure the network so that nobody can hack into it. So these are actually very important things to know about. Okay, and there are tools to do that, by the way. It's not like it's something that you have to invent. Basically, you can get a port scanner. Basically, there are Nmap in particular is an open source port scanner. Okay, you can actually download and you basically get a version of Linux called the Kali Linux. Kali Linux actually has all these utilities actually for free there. Okay, but actually you cannot use them on any network. You have to have authorization, you have to have some training, actually. You have to have some experience also to know how to read the output of Nmap. But actually Nmap, if you basically, if you are on a certain network, if you basically have access to a certain address, you can actually try to communicate with that address. And basically, whenever you do that, you can get one of three things. You basically realize that it's open, you get a reply. So basically, you know that this service is available, okay? Basically, you might get a close or denied or not listening. Basically, there are responses like this, okay? So it's a reply, and it indicates that the connection will be denied. So basically, you know that the server is there, but this particular service is not available. This can still be useful, by the way. You can know some information about the operating system from such things. The best way actually is to basically filtered or dropped or blocked, basically. You don't send anything at all, basically, okay? So basically, whenever you feel that somebody's trying to do port mapping, you just basically program your servers to not reply at all. The problem with this is that you have to identify that somebody's trying to do that, okay? If you just do it for everybody, then you'll be blocking all these services. So basically, if you have a web server, for example, it doesn't make sense to block the web access service, okay? So basically, it needs a little bit of experience to know where to block and where to reply, and basically you have to also be careful about such things, okay? So one very important thing is that if you have a home network, for example, basically your home network, you find addresses like 128.196.1.1, for example. This is like the addresses start with 128.196, things of that sort. If you look at your IP address, which is gonna basically gonna do that practically in the next topic, inshallah, in the networking, you have certain addresses for your local area network. So basically, if you look at your computer at home, your address might be like 10, okay? 128.196.1.10, okay? My address at my home might be exactly the same one. Maybe at every home, everywhere in Saudi Arabia, you might find actually an address like this in every home. How can you discriminate between your computer and mine? The thing is, this is not an actual address. This is not available to people from the internet. It's available to the local area only, the local people, the people on your home only, okay? So basically, whenever you go out, whenever you go to the internet, the router translates, or basically the interface between you and the internet is the router. You have a certain address that is given by the internet service provider that is used and basically seen by others outside. So basically, if you're trying to access the internet, basically, if you want to know your public IP address, basically, you will know that a public address by just going to Google and basically writing this. If you just actually, Google is really nice with it has some really nice features, which is that you can actually write some very specific questions like this, and you can get an answer. So if you write a question like this on Google, if you search Google by this question, you will get your actual IP address, okay? Which is going to be different from what you have on your computer, okay? So from your local area network. We're going to talk about this in the networking part, but actually any website, any web address, anything that you access on the internet must have an address, okay? And we're going to see addresses for such things as Google or Hotmail or whatever, inshallah, in the next topic. So basically, if somebody's trying to do port scanning of a computer on your local area network, behind the router will actually not be able to do that, because basically it's going to be doing port scanning on the router itself, not on your computer. So it's always good to have a router between you and the internet, because actually it can prevent such port scans from happening. Okay, I think it's probably a good point to stop here because we ran out of time. Do you have any questions? Okay, again, just in case some people weren't here when I mentioned about the second project, please send me a link to the movie file, okay? Because I'm going to upload it to the YouTube channel of the biomedical engineering program, okay? The official one, okay? So basically, if you upload it yourself, I'm not gonna be able to do that. I have to actually get the file so that I can upload it. I cannot upload it from your YouTube account, for example, okay? If you have any questions about the project or otherwise, please feel free to let me know, okay? If you are kind of a little bit late on finishing your projects, it's fine. If you submit the project a little bit late, I will accept them from you, okay? Don't worry about that. Any questions about the homework or the project or anything? Okay. So inshallah, I'll meet you. Okay. So inshallah, I'll meet you next time, inshallah, next lecture, inshallah. Okay. If you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to send an email. By the way, my information is available on Blackboard. If you look at Blackboard, and basically there is a link called Contact Professor. You will have my phone number, you have my email, you have everything. So basically, if you want to contact me, you'll find all the information there. Okay? Okay. Good luck, inshallah, and see you, inshallah, next time. Okay? Assalamu alaikum.